Good morning, Mr. Phil. You asked a bunch of great questions here on Facebook, so I just want to run through them real quick. Because I think if I write it out, I don't know how good of a job I'm going to do explaining it. Probably not well considering everything else I've tried. Okay, so wouldn't need regulation or control from government. People are the government. I'm not talking about the USA, although it's the way they should be. What happens when two morally good people have a conflict? So I'm going to turn this back to you and say, give me an example of that, because there are probably different situations for different solutions for different scenarios. Everybody would have a right to walk away, but who made the decision that I'm going to be walking away from? You need a boss slash leader, someone people respect, through force. So one of the reasons why I'm babbling on about self-sufficiency and independence is so that you have the ability to walk away. And generally, there's going to be someone that you can work with. So you find a few friends or family members, people you know, or people who just have some similar interests and kind of do similar to what I'm doing. You have food security and energy security. And then if things fall apart or if you don't like the job, you can walk away and still have clean water and food and heat. So that's what I mean by that you have that right to walk away from it. It's not that you wouldn't have a boss. You can engage in an agreement. You don't need a law agreement, just a verbal agreement or generally understanding that, hey, I'm going to go help this person with their garden, and in return, I mean, she's generally telling me what to do because I'm helping them. That's totally legit, and that can be as big and organized as people want. It can be 2 people or it can be 1,000 people. So everyone is able to engage in that interaction or disengage if they want. Through force, definitely not. Through intimidation, my way. See, or by the election of people. Yeah, so I might need an example of what you're talking about. For me, I would like to use democracy when it's, if you have, say, like if you have 100 people living and in some area and they have 1 acre for growing food, and half of the people want the food grown one way and the other half want it the other way, you should just do both. Or maybe someone's in charge of food and they're doing it, quote, wrong, and you want to change it, then you can try and convince other people, like, hey, this person's doing it the wrong way, we should convince them. And maybe they join you, maybe they not. Maybe you take charge of 5% of the area growing food because you have 5% support of the community. So it's like there's solutions that work out where you don't need to have a boss if you don't want one. You don't need a military. Yeah, I'm not, when I say you don't need a military, I'm not saying there's not going to be any organized fighting force, because like you, I don't want it just to be, I want people trained and ready to go. But right now, militaries are under the authority of governments, which seem to be kind of corrupt. So they're not really under the authority of people. So there would be a change in that whole relationship. But you can't just obviously disband all the militaries, because then there's going to be a bunch of other assholes that do things. So it's this type of thing that humanity has to grow out of. Some men and women, he'll step on me. I prefer military. Yeah, so we're good at that. Just because you and I are doing morally corrupt don't mean outsiders are more successful in your co-ops. The outsiders will want to destroy it. It's human nature. That's an interesting question, and I think that's what a lot of people are struggling to understand with what I'm advocating. Is what they are judging human nature as is, in my opinion, human nature as adapted to capitalism. And there's a massive difference, because if someone was born like in a Native American tribe 1,000 years ago, you become a different person. You behave differently. You're the same person, but it's like you behave differently. You adapt to the situation differently, and you could even have a general different understanding about human nature if you were adapted to that type of environment, a Native American environment, or an indigenous population. So, human nature to destroy it? I don't think so. I think there's always going to be people who want more, but if the groups that are defending the communities, whether or not it's a localized militia or a large scale military, they would, it would probably scale up to the size of the threat. I think there's more people who don't want to see destruction than who want to see destruction. And in that regards, like you wrote, it's human nature to want to destroy it. Yeah, I think it's human nature to protect yourself. And if there's a large threat and then there's a military that says, hey, if you help feed our troops like you're feeding the rest of your community and we'll protect your planet, that, people would probably be okay with that. They wouldn't need to walk away from that exchange. Anyway, hope that helps.